Hello everyone. Yes, so my stage name is Paradox. It's also my alter ego and archetype, and I am an existentialist beat poet. And we're here, the theme is food, so we've kind of blagged it. I'm going to give you some food for thought. Existentially speaking, there is only one true human freedom. There's only one freedom that can never be taken away from you under any circumstances, and that is the freedom to choose your response to the events of your life, or the freedom to give meaning to the events of your life, or in a word, attitude. Here's a poem about that, and it's called Attitude Kings. See, the world's divided into two types of people. I'm not talking about who I think is good and who I think is evil. I'm talking about the people who disbelieve the unbelievable. I'm talking about the achievers who achieve the unachievable. These are the people who seek to perceive the impossible, to dream the unfeasible and seize the keys to the unreachable. Somehow, they're able to make the meaningless meaningful, to appease the unappeasable and redeem the irredeemable. And when they make mistakes, they make sure they're only venial. They do what needs to be done even if it is completely venial. They're utterly dynamic, yet remain serenely peaceable. They never seem to panic. It seems like they've already seen it. In a sense, they can seem extremely unreasonable. For them, no disease is untreatable. Their attitude's unbeatable. It's inconceivable. Their inspiration isn't streamable. So I wrote this for it to be shared right here between us. And then there's the other 99.9%. Lost in vanity, insanity, in the Bible Belt Christianity. Ecological destruction, materialist induction, and numerous forms of hyper-violent tribal eruptions. Transport disruptions, shopping mall constructions, credit crunch hunger, and public service reductions. Billions live in poverty with no political suction, yet often live more meaningful lives than half the population of London. When narcissism has now reached epic proportions. What's next? A reality show called My First Abortion? Caution. You're now a product of corporate extortion, viewing mass media distortion as totally awesome, while acute social torsion causes more and more sons and daughters to be forced into dark and falsely awkward corners, and given no quarter, they're reborn as fallen street mourners, leaving parents who are no more than poor, soul-broken mourners. Yeah, the world's in a mess. Tell us something we don't know. Yeah, the human race looks like it's going the way of the dodo. What can I do though? Or Napoleon Solo? Well, you can stop blowing your own oboe and get to work in your attitude dojo. No, you don't think so? You want to go on a go slow? I'm young, I want to have fun, I want to get jiggy like a bonobo. Yeah, Coco. But if you don't want to be a no-show, all life asks you give it 100% of your own flow. So it's not about what you do, it's about the way that you do it. It's not about what happens, it's about how you respond to it. So when life bites, don't swallow the meaning until you chew it. Because come Judgment Day, you either loved it or you blew it. You see, nothing really matters, is the song life sings. So when death comes to call, you won't give a toss about your fling. What the world needs is the inspiration only you can bring. So be your own inspiration. Be an attitude king. Someone once asked Gandhi what he thought of Western civilization, and he said, I think it would be a good idea. So in that vein, this is an existentialist critique of Western civilization in the form of a spoof on the 10 o'clock news, and it's called the 10 o'clock brews. Good evening. Welcome to the 10 o'clock brews. The condition's human. What are you going to do? Tonight we confused humans will be reviewing the latest news of all the useless, abusive, and occasionally lucid choices chosen by humans when humans choose to do the crazy things that humans do while suffering from the human condition. Our schizophrenic Africa correspondent, Dikembe van de Boot, reports from Lagos. No dinner can say can gloss over this. In Africa, things are turning to shit. But you must remember this is a tremendously complex business. In many foreign commentators have developed a terrible oversimplification of this. East Pascalanian Africa is cursed by poverty, starvation, corruption, and war. But all of these things were going on in Africa before. All I'm saying is that the problem is deeper than just the legacy of colonization.
and institutionalized racism. The problem is in the hearts and minds of the people as much as the geopolitical situation.
Thank you, Dikembe. Worrying news there from the cradle of Hamitic migration. You're watching the 10 o'clock brews. The conditions human. What are you going to do? Our Middle Eastern correspondent, Zebediah Morphy Mali, reports from Palestine. Greetings, brethren and sistren! One love to the conquering line of the tribe of Judah. Sources suggest that the political and military powers are pretty fucking far from United Nations. Seek to dictate to the oil and heroin-rich nations of Islam through Machiavellian legislation, lobbied by multinational corporation, enforced by CIA operation, and leveraged by Israeli-Palestinian conflict negotiation procrastination. Meanwhile, some of Allah, Mullah, and Ayatollah seek a return to the days of female slavery by sanctioning pedophilia enabling arranged marriages daily, alongside head choppings and honor killings and school bus bombings in reaction to Israel's cuckoo's egg terrorism of is you is or is you ain't belonging. The Holy Land, very few rights, creating more and more wrong. Zebediah, more fire, Marley, 10 o'clock rules. Another news from the Middle East. A British soldier blown to bits in Basra by a baby-bound booby trap. Loves playing soldier so much, he can't wait to get patched up and go back. In Iraq, a World Bank executive and loving father of 3 sociopath is caught carrying counterfeit corporate reconstruction economic debt traps. And in Afghanistan, the Taliban have now institutionalized long-bearded, Ramadan syncopated date rape attacks. You're watching the 10 o'clock brews. The conditions human. What are you going to do? Terrible reports of more human stupidity and cruelty from the cradle of Western civilization. Here to tell us what's happening at home, Timothy, Oxford, Cambridge. Well, Paradox Big News here, of course, is the viral voodoo voting cult of ritual public humiliation that makes the X Factor and Strictly Come Dancing such gripping entertainment. Just what the nation needs to get its mind off its mortgage payments. Yes, Timothy, how lucky we are to have Simon Cowell lead this competition. But any news of anarchy in the UK? Well, today in Erith, a fat, lazy, binge-drinking, aspo-dodging chav happily slapped her way onto YouTube. And in Hackney, a masked gang of hoodies clashed in a stab dem man dem UK rap, grime, garage, drum and bass dancehall fusion. And in Detention Central Boston, there's been another outbreak of vanity-driven, tediously superficial narcissism. Middle class, up their own arse and smart arse. Reports suggest that super rich, my wag's a bitch, spit rose-loving professional footballers are disappearing up their own arse faster than Heat magazine reading, celebrity-obsessed reality TV phone. But unfortunately, the postmodern, countercultural, alternative conspiracy hippie party have stated on their Facebook pages that they're still attempting to solve the problem. The same level of awareness at which it was created. A report from Timothy, Oxford, Cambridge. You're watching the 10 o'clock brews. The conditions human. What are you going to do? I wonder if the new world has a solution to our old world situation. Randy Alabama III reports from the country with the world's highest prison population. Now, the civilized society is judged by how well it treats the least of its people. And the United States of America is a civilization without equal. You see, we take our white trash and our niggers, and I'll be damned if we don't house them, clothe them, feed them. Lord Jesus, we even preach to them. And it costs us hundreds of millions of dollars to run all these prisons we need to keep them in. You see, the United States of America is the world's largest consumer of drugs, junk food, pornography, and semi-automatic weapons. Hell, our fundamentalist religious elite are looking forward to Armageddon. Those motherfuckers reckon they're the only motherfuckers that's even going to heaven. Best of all, we have American television and the global irrelevance of the Hollywood metavision and its superstructure, the self-defeating fallacy of free market capitalism, which protects and serves the land of the free, home of the brave. Thank you, Randy. You're watching the 10 o'clock brews. The condition's human. What do you mean? I'm joined now by satellite by Professor Roderick Dogma, a selfish gene advocate, chairman of the Royal Society of Atheists. Professor Dogma, what does science have to say about the human condition?
Well, first we have to jolly well get rid of this ridiculous God delusion. For God's sake, science has proven there's no need for God, because God's job could have been accomplished solely by the process of evolution. All these primitive fools who believe in a higher power are just confused. We simply must stop teaching our children primitive superstitions which contradict scientific truth. Believe when I was up all day and I don't say blind faith, and it makes me into proof. We must base our lives on proof. And when it comes to proof, science rules the roost. Yes, it does, Professor Dogma, when you're referring to the world of physical matter. But in the psychological world of human experience, surely the materialist mold is shattered. No, do try to keep up. Thoughts and feelings are merely epiphenomena. Only the physical body is real. Consciousness is just neuron firing in the brain, as is everything we think, do, and feel.
With respect, Professor Dogma, aren't you guilty of confusing the facts for your opinion? Which is rather disingenuous given your claim to know truth's true dominion. Yes, science is the gold standard when it comes to measuring and manipulating physical reality, but the multiple dimensions of a human being are a complex, holistic plurality. So when the question is, how are we to live? And how can we fulfill our potential? Then scientific truth is superseded by truths that are paradoxical, existential.
Well,
I suggest to you, Professor Dogma, that if somebody's delusional belief in God nevertheless helps them to be a kinder, more loving, productive and collaborative person, then your arrogant denunciation of faith per se begins to look like bigoted, narrow-minded perversion.
well,
I suggest to you, Professor Dogma, that your fundamentalist belief in atheism is not so different from that of a fundamentalist Muslim or Christian.
Well,
I'm sorry, Professor Dogma, we're running out of time and I have to say goodbye. It seems there's more to the human condition than can be seen with a scientific eye. You're watching the 10 o'clock brews. The condition's human. What are you going to do? Finally tonight, I'm joined by non-dual philosopher poet and Rasta Zen master, Jarroots Kobayashi. Master Kobayashi, what does Zen have to say about the human condition? Indeed, the sound of silence. It's very Zen. The Tao that can be spoken is not the true Tao. That's very spiritually authentic, but it's not much fucking good for those of us who just don't fucking get it. Ow! What'd you do that for, Master? That hurt. That hurt. Oh, I get it. Life is suffering. Everybody suffers. But some don't suffer their suffering. They use it instead. They use it to learn, they use it to grow, they use it to love, they use it to inspire, and they use it to serve. Thank you for that kick up the arse, Master. You've been watching the 10 o'clock brews. If you're suffering from the human condition, we recommend you find a use. Because with all the suffering in the world, maybe that's the least thing. Just want to say that that's my thing. The power that human beings have to transform their experience, to take whatever life throws at them. You know the old, if life gives you lemons, make lemonade. It takes a lot of shit to grow good roses. That whole thing. I run workshops called The Art of Meaning, which are workshops where, through the process of learning to write poetry, they're kind of like poetry workshops on the surface. So everybody who comes to one of the workshops ends up writing and performing a wicked poem, honestly, they always do. And in that process, they get in touch with what I call our inner poet. Everyone has an inner poet, and that is the part of you that perceives the world, let's say, non-dualistically or paradoxically, and that part of you that is able to perceive any situation and transform it into something inspirational or useful or meaningful. And so I'm taking sort of email addresses to send information. I'm doing one in London, one in East London on Sunday. So if anybody's interested in those, then make sure I get your details. So I'll just finish off with this one. So that's been my journey throughout my life. I've had a lot of things happen that, from a sort of dualistic point of view, were bad, but from a paradoxical point of view, were actually quite good. And one of those things was, about 3 years ago, I was traveling in Mexico, part of a sort of horse caravan, riding around Mexico on horseback as part of some circus. We were all jumping off a cliff into a river one day, and just where I jumped, there was a rock sticking out of the river, and I hit my foot and did this. I know. Put it away, Chris. Stop showing off. But you know what they say: when you got it, flaunt it. Yes, I had a whole journey at sort of age of 41, having been able-bodied all my life, and losing a leg, and I've never been very PC. I was kind of really clear that, you know, I like to think of myself as an attitude king, and I wanted to apply that for real in that situation. So I was really clear that I didn't want to go the PC route of trying to control other people's reactions to me, because that's the kind of PC. I mean, I understand that a lot of people have been marginalised and discriminated against. That's one thing, but the whole idea of trying to control what people say, the words people use, it doesn't make sense to me. I'm kind of old school. Sticks and stones will break my bones and names will never hurt me. So I figured, you know, I had to learn to live with people's reactions, because human beings will always react to something unusual or deformity or whatever. So when I first lost my leg, I used to go on the street wearing shorts and have the leg out, and so I see people's reactions. And people's reactions are hilarious. Like, you get kids who's the best, obviously give you the best reaction, because they're like, "Oh look, he's got one leg, how'd that happen, mate? Well, that's what you wanted." So they just ask you loads of questions, and they're all like very open about it and intrigued and curious. So that's really cool. And then you get, you know, what I would say was the sort of average person's reaction, which would be to kind of look, but if I caught them looking, which is an amusing one, and then you get what I call the Daily Mail reader reaction, which is kind of sneeringly, "Take that deformity out of here, you're bringing the house prices down, get it out." And, you know, things are easy to handle when you understand, and I do understand that we don't like to be reminded of the vulnerability and the fragility of the human body, so I can understand somebody not wanting to be reminded by that. So, you know, I learned for it not to bother me. I could understand why they were being like that. And on the sort of opposite end of the scale, there was a reaction that I got from, it tended to be women, and they tended to have a certain look and a certain accent. So in my head, my poetic head, I gave them the label handsome middle-aged women with children of university age. Because they tended to be that, and they always give me this smile that wasn't pity or even sympathy really. It was more empathy and encouragement and just, you know, all these wonderful things in a smile that I can't really tell you, but it just shone out, and it was an amazing action. And I just really hope their kids do well at university. I'm sure they will with that kind of upbringing. And then my other favourite one was tended to be, you know, typically the pattern was an Irish or Jamaican guy outside the pubs, had a few, very clearly is used to having a few, and who would see me and his eyes would light up, "Oh, come over here, mate, let me tell you about what happened to me in the war," you know, and he's just really happy to see someone worse off than him, do you know what I mean? Kind of best buddy kind of thing. That was a great one. But anyway, I just thought that that I should write a poem about the experience of being able-bodied and then becoming disabled, because, you know, what I got to realise very soon was I'm the disabled guy kind of thing. So I wanted to write a poem about that, and it's called Disabled Guy. So it's a terrible thing to lose a limb, but I've never bothered to ask why. Because what matters is learning to live with the fact that I'm the disabled guy. Look, he's lost a leg. I think I'd rather die. I'm a freak, and people take a peek on the sly. I walk in a room and conversation runs dry. Sometimes fear becomes a sneer as I walk by. They can't hide their distaste no matter how hard they try. But some smile a smile that's wide and bright, because they know it's all about the attitude I apply. Because on the inside, there's a tragic ladder I climb to kiss the sky. So that most of the time I feel like the most high, superfly, disabled guy. It's a hell of a thing becoming disabled after 40 able-bodied years. Hello, come in, sit down. Let me introduce you to your greatest fears. Here's a glass half full of laughter, and here's a glass half full of tears. And here's a brand new rude awakening to a completely new group of peers. So after 40 formative years, I stand before you, deformed. The cause, the need for me to be reborn. The same cause all the fallen fools hope not to be informed. Shorn of my born adornment, I stand in the dark before the dawn, wearing the sexiest NHS accessory I've ever friggin' worn. You see, when I get on the bus and I see some young buck singing the disabled season cheeky fuck, I stand in front of him and I say, check this, bro! And I slowly begin to pull my trousers. And I stare at him, and I stare at my leg, and I stare at him, and I stare at my leg. And I stare at him and I shake my hand, and if looks could kill, you see, I get my powers from the kids. Some call me a flit, but most think I'm Inspector Gadget. And when they see the leg, they all point and stare. And when they see the stump, the little girls get scared. But my little mate Neo didn't care. He took one look and said, oh yeah, a bionic leg, cool, I want one too. I'm like, wake up, Neo, legs are best still attached to you. See, I used to think we were freaks too. We used to make me uncomfortable, like we can do you. I didn't quite know what to say or do. I didn't want to get caught up in any. But now I'm one of them, and they're one of me. When the shoe's on the other foot, it's amazing what you see. People dealing with agony, tragedy, with fantastic existential majesty. People whose physiology and neurology is way more damaged than me, but whose intensity of empathy is absolutely exemplary. See, disabled people tend to be very experienced, existentially, and our experience of reality can be very valuable when it's viewed creatively. And inspirationally, the very thing that you'd hate to be may be the key to your greatest destiny. It may be the perfect test to see if you can be more than you were born blessed to be.